Animation is something I've never really talked about in my YouTube career. A few years back I did try and expand my boundaries to cartoons, and it didn't go so well.
God, I hate this episode. That is so cliche. I think it sucks. I am honestly offended by this moral in so many ways.
Dude, you're like a mini Mr. Enter. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely embarrassing, and generally my passion for animation was never as consistent as my passion for games. I had phases where I considered myself a cartoon fan, but I would usually fade in and out of that interest. But while I was interested, I would often draft lists similar to the lists I do nowadays about games. Picking my favorite animated shows was an interesting endeavor. I had classics on it like Avatar: The Last Airbender, South Park, and Phineas and Ferb. Even my 12-year-old self could write a few paragraphs breaking down what I liked about those shows. There was one show, though, that I fucking loved, but had a hard time ranking in comparison with the other ones, because when I tried to hold it to the standards I set for other cartoons, it really underperformed. Its animation, writing, and comedic style did not quite match the standards the mysterious Mr. Enter told me I should hold them to. This show was Total Drama, and as a kid, I considered it one of my favorite animated shows of all time. I loved the show, and I was obsessed with it. I've seen every season at least twice, and the earlier you go in the show's chronology, the more times I've seen it. I've definitely watched Total Drama Island at least 10 times through. I'm obsessed with the series. Occasionally, complete strangers will bring the show up as something they used to watch, and like, on instinct, I blurt out a bunch of stupid facts about the show that no one cares about. I had no idea why I loved it so much, and really, today, not much has changed. I fucking love the show, and love talking about it. I know so much useless trivia about it, that if I were in a game of Jeopardy and one of the topics was total drama, I would win. But you know what? Trying to figure out where the magic in this show is will be difficult, so let's break it down, nice and easy. Reality TV is a genre of television that gets a lot of shit. People talk about how much it sucks a lot, and I guess I'll agree with that. I mean, throwing 10 people in a house and forcing them to deal with only each other for a few months isn't something I'd watch to enjoy the spectacle of good camera work and storytelling. It's not about higher ideals, it's more about our dark, curious desire to see people turn on each other and fight. But even I felt like a weirdo looking for footage for this part of the video and replacing my comfy YouTube recommendations of old JonTron videos and soft-spoken food reviewers with breast-implanted psychopath women and abused children dressing up in swimsuits. Give me a sec. But what if there was a reality show without the commodification of the stress and social conflict of real people? Instead, it's a bunch of animated teenagers, and it's a parody of Survivor? Total Drama Island was not always known as Total Drama Island. The first concept of the show was drafted under the name Camp-ture back in 2003. The only remaining trailer for the show dates back to 2006 and doesn't have very good quality. It is fascinating though, taking a look at it and seeing the similarities between the basic concept for the show and the final product. Some characters look just like they do in the final product, and some look and act completely different. It seems that Lindsay, who you'll learn later is a very kind-hearted character in the final product, seems to be originally planned as the main antagonist of the show.
I thought this was supposed to be a talent contest.
I thought this was going to be a talent contest.
The show changed its basic structure, name, and animation after getting feedback from various broadcasters and networks, and first aired on Teletoon on July 8th, 2007. If you don't know what Teletoon is, well, it's like Cartoon Network, but from a foreign, bizarre country, known as Canada. It aired on Cartoon Network 11 months later, but it took me a bit to start watching it. I remember seeing promos on TV for the show, but not being interested. There were a few reasons why, but one was just that the show didn't look very easy on the eyes. I know that's a weird criticism, but it's true. I never liked the show's art style, and even today, I'm still not big on it. There was this really weird trend in the 2000s and early 2010s where animated shows would intentionally have gross art styles, and even as a kid, I couldn't stand a lot of the things on Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon because of how awfully the shows were animated. It was especially bad with foreign shows, like Total Drama, which also had pretty cheap flash animation. This is the kind of stuff that makes me proud to be an American, by the way. If you're ever in an argument with a Canadian and they try and dunk on you for their, healthcare or whatever, just remind them of how ugly their cartoons are. They'll be fucking crushed. In recent years, it seemed that animators have taken this problem to heart and tried to dial down the grossness factor of a lot of shows, trying to make shows that are more aesthetically pleasing. But we still do occasionally have fucking terrible shows that bring back that problem. Like, what the fuck is this? Why do these characters look like unopened toilets? I remember the night, though, that I first watched Total Drama Island. It was at my parents' friend's house. My sister and I were hanging out with their kids and they had the show on. And it was maybe around halfway through the season, but I was drawn to the show for some reason. I'm not sure why. Something about it was just really fascinating to me. Not sure what.
Oops.
I followed the show closely until the end of Total Drama Action, and then kinda stopped. I got back into the show later on, and ended up loving it even more. It's probably one of the first shows I was ever able to binge. I loved watching the show, reading wikis about the show, and watching weird videos made by fans of the show. Like, for example, TDI Cast 10 years later, a video that takes a look at the cast of the first season and makes predictions about where in life they will be after a decade. Beth let her hair down, but couldn't do anything about her disgusting pig nose. Ezekiel became a professional wrestler who's lost to every single woman he's ever fought. Pretty embarrassing. Harold proposed to Lashana and became a professional rapper. Total Drama Island was a success, and continued to have many more seasons. I guess I'll just give them all a quick run through, because I plan to talk about the first season exclusively in this video. I just mentioned Total Drama Action, which traded the show's original summer camp setting for an abandoned film studio and had a smaller cast. It also started a trend of aftermath episodes, which took place in a sister talk show to the main series where eliminated contestants would talk about their experiences. Total Drama Action didn't have the same charm the first season did, though. I think the loss of the camp setting was a bit unfortunate, and this was where they started toying with the characters and their relationships, and sometimes it was frustrating. Total Drama Action was followed by Total Drama World Tour, which had challenges all over the world. It had a few changes, like how the show started with 3 teams instead of 2, and how there were comedic musical numbers every episode, that I must confess, I liked quite a bit. There were new characters that spiced up the old cast, and overall I can't decide whether this or the original was my favorite season. Then everything started to suck. Total Drama Revenge of the Island took us back to the original setting of Camp Wawanakwa, except, well, it's become a nuclear dump site. The island has become a hellscape of genetic waste and weird mutant creatures. But don't let that sound too interesting, because this is where the show takes a bad turn. First of all, there were no returning cast members. Instead, we got a smaller selection of new characters, many of whom were fucking dumb and pointless additions to the cast. This is also where the show cut its season length in half, replacing the 26 episode norm with only 13 episodes. Now, even though there's a smaller cast, this still cramps the season. There was almost no time for the characters to establish themselves and their relationships with one another. Instead, Total Drama took the complete opposite direction with how they wanted to write their show. The challenges were more cartoony and silly than ever, but there were none of those old comfy moments where characters just interacted with one another. I guess it was too surreal. Revenge of the Island was followed by Total Drama All-Stars, which on the plus side brought back some old faces. Unfortunately, half the cast was from Revenge and half was from all the other seasons, which was kind of stupid. I'd have honestly preferred if they kept more characters from the old seasons, because the fact that Sam gets in this season over major characters like Owen is a fucking joke. All-Stars had some charm of the old characters, but still suffer from a lot of Revenge's problems, replacing a lot of the teen drama charm of the older seasons with just increased levels of slapstick. Though I should mention, All-Stars is technically the first half of a double season according to some sources, which, fuck, is so fucking bad. Total Drama Pakuto Island is the series' low point for sure. Most of the new characters are such dumb ideas and so weirdly gimmicky that it's just so cringeworthy seeing them interact. A kid who plays so much D&D that he can't distinguish it from the real world, or the girl who's convinced she's a Disney princess are some real bad ones. I like to call it weirdo syndrome, where media with changing casts slowly gets more and more disjointed and surreal. I think a good example is Danganronpa, and how the kind of characters that were in the cast got more and more silly in concept. Danganronpa, though, at least, gave their cast enough time to establish themselves beyond their silly gimmicks and build more natural relationships. There hasn't been another mainline Total Drama season in a few years. Since Pakuto, there have been a couple of in-universe spin-offs, such as The Redonkulous Race, a parody of The Amazing Race, which was actually a nice step, bringing back a lot of the charm from the older seasons. Finally, there's Total Drama Rama, which, no, I'm not talking about that.
I know that you get joy when you get empty. It's so close.
Now I know the music segment is a weird thing to jump in with, but trust me, I want to get this over with. Well, first of all, the show's soundtrack is all fine. Like, it's good background music. I especially like the music that plays during the elimination ceremonies, and how the animation goes in sync with it. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to praise this show's dope fucking theme song. Holy shit, this is how you do an opener. Total Drama Island's theme song is fucking great. It's a rock song known as I Wanna Be Famous, and it's fantastic. It's basically just about wanting to be in the spotlight and doing what you can to become famous. It's pretty catchy, and I enjoy it. It's a song that looks deep into our souls, and brings attention to the human desire for glory, the desire to not be forgotten. A tale as old as time itself, really. What I enjoy even more is the video content that goes along with it. It basically takes you through the island and you get a glimpse of all the characters. They're all in their own personalized scenes, and it gives you a basic rundown on the cast and their personalities and relationships with each other. You see Jeff and Bridget enjoying each other's company before sniffing one of Owen's farts, or Katie and Sadie enjoying Justin posing by the beach. It's a very good way of introducing all the characters in about a minute. They kept making new versions of this theme song for the next few seasons, and I enjoyed how they kept the structure and called back to previous scenes. The songs consistently start out with Owen underwater and move on from there, which I think is cool. But there's also some new antics, like in Total Drama World Tour, where you get to see DJ and Bridget surfing or Noah and Lashana walking over Abbey Road. And you all know me, I love me a good Abbey Road reference. As much as I dislike the new cast in Revenge of the Island, they very creatively followed the old sequence in the first season, just with new characters in the same scenes, which is a nice callback. They kept making new full-length intros until Total Drama All-Stars, where the intro just became the last part of the main song, cutting the time drastically, which, let me just say, is fucking dumb. They replaced it with only the ending, without the main verse, and just, why? You cut down such a cool intro, and I know I'm gonna get some Reddit mode brainiacs in the comment section telling me it doesn't matter because it doesn't directly affect the quality of the show, and I'd like to tell you all to shut up. Fuck you. These intros are so dope, and they decided to pretty much get rid of them. Such a shame. What's with shows and cutting out cool theme songs? I don't care if the theme song makes up 10% of the show's runtime. I fucking love theme songs. We Canadians and Americans need to relearn the value of a good theme song and bring dope theme songs like that of Total Drama Island back. I remember when The Amazing World of Gumball first became a thing, and finding out it had a super cool intro that wasn't aired in the United States. Dude, fuck time slots and fuck advertisements. Show me cool intro themes. This is one thing the Japanese do so well. The good thing about the Japanese is that they like fun, so they make cool intro songs that sometimes last up to 2 minutes. But it doesn't matter, because they're super catchy and shit.
I won't ever give in, no matter how hard you pull me in. I know gravity ain't an excuse, I just wanna make things a little more smooth. Majority is still asleep, they're tired of those dreadful dreams.
Consider this a privilege. You've been chosen. You are going to participate in a game. A game where you put your life on the line.
Yo!
Yo!
The first episode starts off with just the host, Chris McLean, greeting us from Camp Wawanakwa, a summer camp on a small island in Ontario. He goes through the basics of the game that the show will host. He mentions the basic format of each challenge and elimination. Every episode will have one camper be voted off. It's a pretty fair introduction to the show. He then brings up the question, why come to this shitty summer camp show? What's in it for the players?
In the end, only one will be left standing and will be rewarded with cheesy tabloid fame and a small fortune, which, let's face it, they'll probably blow in a week.
$100,000? That's like 80 million fucking Robux.
So the first episode is dedicated to the introduction of the cast and their first interactions. Dedicating pretty much an entire episode to that alone was kind of a risky idea, but it worked out. The characters are all kind of ticked off after finding out the camp they're staying at sucks, and you see them react to it in different ways. One thing this episode did really well, along with the season in general, was the level of deadpan humor. Now, I think this might just be because they hadn't gotten into the groove of sound design for the show, but there's a lot of awkward silences here and there, and it emulates the strangeness of the new situation for the cast to me, and I find it kind of funny. The show gets a lot faster paced later on, but there's an, I don't know, choppiness and slower mood to the first few episodes that makes it kind of cozy.
Not too shabby.
That's fucked up, Chris. You're like 40. After Lindsay's introduction, we get introduced to Heather, and they show off her angry appearance and make her intent to win by any means necessary clear.
If you don't know Heather, she's kind of a mean character. Basically the main antagonist of the season. And throughout the show, you'll see some of the cheeky shit she does.
These introductions are pretty funny, and it's an enjoyable moment of the first season.
What's up, y'all? LaShawn is in the house. Oh, what's up, my brother? Give me some sugar, baby.
I've never seen a girl like you in real life before.
Excuse me?
You're real big and loud.
What did you say to me? Oh, no, you didn't. You have not seen anything yet. I'll show you big, baby.
Wow.
We are then introduced to a few other characters.
This is Justin. Welcome to Total Drama Island.
Thanks, Chris. This is great.
Just so you know, we picked you based entirely on your looks.
I can deal with that.
I like your pants.
Thanks, man.
Because they look like they're all worn out. Did you buy them like that?
No. Just had them for a while.
Oh, cool.
Did I mention the awkward deadpan charm this show has? Because this is a good example.
The gang takes their group photo and goes straight to the team selection. Most people seem alright with their team, but the two besties dressed like they escaped from a San Francisco jail were kinda bummed to be on opposite teams.
You will also be able to share your innermost thoughts on tape with video diaries anytime you want.
Okay. So far this stinks.
I feel like people always think I'm really narcissistic or have really low self-esteem. I think it's because I very rarely show any self-consciousness among strangers, but among people I know well, I'm very quick to blame myself for everything.
Anyone who's ever shared a room with others knows that it can be awkward at first, and the campers take a bit to get used to their new living conditions.
I'm glad we're in our own cabin with just guys, you know what I mean? I mean, no, I didn't mean it like that. I love chicks. I just don't want to sleep near them.
I can understand that.
The campers head to the dining cabin to eat lunch, and oh shit, turns out the food is disgusting and probably not legal to serve in the real world. We are introduced to Chef Hatchet as a character, and I will say that he is incredibly entertaining.
Welcome to the main lodge. Your first challenge begins in 1 hour.
What do you think they'll make us do?
It's our first challenge. How hard can it be? Oh,
You jinxed it, DJ. The next episode opens with the cast understandably terrified of jumping into the shark-infested waters. Most of the characters manage to take the plunge, but a few characters don't and are forced to wear a chicken hat and lose their team a point. But more people took the dive than you would expect.
There's no way I'm doing this.
Why not?
Hello, national TV. I'll get my hair wet.
Oh, you're doing it.
Says who?
Says me. I'm not losing this challenge because you got your hair did, you spoiled little daddy's girl.
Back off, ghetto glamour too-tight pants wearing rap star wannabe.
Mall shopping, ponytail wearing, teen girl reading, peeking in high school prom queen. You're jumping.
Make me.
Justin takes the plunge and misses the safe zone, but the sharks think he's so hot that they willingly carry him to shore. The Screaming Gophers win this challenge and get to have a cool hot tub party.
We won! We all get to stay here for another 3 days!
Woo! Yes! We get to stay, yay. We get to stay, yay. We are so awesome. We won the contest.
The killer bass decide whom to vote off the island. Courtney and DJ are considered the biggest candidates, as they both chickened out of jumping like 200 feet into the lake.
Well, I just don't get why we lost, eh? They're the ones that have 6 girls.
What's that supposed to mean?
Yeah, homeschool. Enlighten us.
Well, guys are much stronger and better at sports than girls are. My dad told me to look out for the girls here, eh? And help them in case they can't keep up.
Ezekiel's criticism of the human female ends up getting him voted off, leading to one of the biggest running jokes throughout the series that eventually will take a serious turn. The next episode once again gives the cast an insane challenge. Stay up as long as possible. The last camper to stay awake wins immunity for their team.
Now, I've stayed up for long periods of time before, but that's with the help of radiation from my computer screen probably frying my ballsack along with all the chemicals and caffeine I put in my system.
These poor campers do not have any technology to destroy their sleeping patterns with, and even still, Gwen from the Screaming Gophers and Duncan from the Killer Bass stay awake for 70 fucking hours, even while Chris continues to do all sorts of crazy shit to try and make them fall asleep.
The History of Canada. A pop-up book.
The rigorous challenge gives the writers time to further establish some characters. Gwen and Trent really spend a lot of time in the spotlight, and this is one of their first episodes together. Heather also forms her important alliance with Lindsay and Beth. She also steals Eva's MP3 player, trying to set her off.
Now, this episode makes a clear effort to put characters and their relationships with each other on record. But I repeat myself.
Gwen wins the challenge for her team and Eva gets the boot. Not because she sucked at the challenge, but after having her MP3 player stolen, she goes crazy and tears apart the cabin.
Now that's a 2007 kind of sentence.
So Heather's strategizing took out an athletic and powerful member of her opposition. And remember, this is a powerful female character, and in kids shows, those are always the strongest. Our next episode takes us to a middle school classic, Dodgebrawl. After 2 consecutive losses for the Killer Bass, they are desperate for a victory, but low on sleep and after losing an incredibly athletic player, they are really desperate. But even with all their efforts, they lose the first 2 matches. So they take the risk of waking up the star player of the previous challenge, Duncan, and his prison tactics end up cementing their first win of the season. But that's not until after Harold, a weak male character, one of the weakest kinds of characters in cartoons, wins the game for his team by catching the ball. This ended up being a good moment for Harold, showing the benefits of his odd talents and skills. One other highlight of this episode was that it was one of the first times we got to see one of the best character dynamics in the show, Duncan and Courtney. These two are such a funny pair, and this is one of the first times you get to see their enjoyable fighting and banter.
Keep an eye on them. It gets better.
The Screaming Gophers are met with their first loss, and the one who takes the plunge is Noah, for his lack of team spirit and refusal to play dodgeball, and he has the whole introverted Rick and Morty nonsense spurg out because of it.
Woohoo! Way to throw those murder balls! Go team, go!
It's kind of a shame though that they dumped Noah so early on. He was a very funny character, but you know, I guess they have to do what they have to do. The next episode is a talent contest, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's a pretty simple premise. 3 characters from each team get to perform anything on stage. The only rule is that it has to be something legal. Performances will be judged by the internet's busiest music nerd, Anthony Fantano.
But before I get into that, one thing I really like about this episode is how the challenge kind of takes a bit of a backseat.
We get to see the characters doing stuff in and out of the challenge, and it has a hint of slice of life when it comes to how the characters develop in this episode. Primarily with one of the first season's power couples, Gwen and Trent. It's one of the first episodes that focuses on their relationship and its development, and also all the things that come in between. Both teams have their dream teams for the talent show, but one team has a lot more luck than the other. Bridget, who while trying to prove her ability to stand on her hands for 20 minutes accidentally destroys Courtney's violin. And then Jeff accidentally breaks his own skateboard, so the Killer Bass's talent crew gets torn apart. The show starts a bit slow with Justin and DJ.
I am feeling a strong 5 to a light 6.
Wow. Wow. It is bad. Light 2.
This one goes out to someone special here at camp. They say that we've only got summer, and I say that's really a bummer.
but we'll swim in the sun and have lots of fun.
It'll just be the two of us. Nothing to do but just hang. So let me say only this. And stick around for just one kiss.
Nice work! I'm liking your style, dude.
3 down and 3 to go, and the killer bass are totally sucking so far. Let's hear it for Bridget.
Are you sure you can do this?
Ooh, definitely. No, I'm great. Really.
Oh, fuck.
I'm hit! I'm hit!
Originally, I was going to dance for you, but instead, I want to celebrate team spirit with a collaboration.
Oh shit, is that Gwen's diary from earlier in the episode?
She wouldn't. So, with words by Gwen, performance by me, enjoy. Okay, so I'm trying to ignore him, but he's just so cute. If they had custom ordered a guy to be a distraction for me here, it would have been McHottie. We just totally connect. He's pretty much the only person I can relate to here, and I know it's a cliche, but I love guys who play guitar.
Wait, I don't play guitar.
That's funny.
So Heather just went sicko mode on Gwen and embarrassed the fuck out of her. Even with Heather getting a fat 0 from our friend Anthony Fantano, the Screaming Gophers still have the lead, especially since all the talented campers in the Killer Bass had some unlucky event keep them from performing. Their only option is to let Harold go on stage.
Just go for it, Harold. What have you got to lose?
Oh! Awesome!
Huh. 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 Huh.
Gosh! Awesome! What?
Huh.
Uh-huh. What?
Huh.
Booyah!
This thing is sitting on a throne of its own design, and nobody's watching because the picture is just too horrifying to stare at. Noisy, catchy, overwhelming, blood-pumping music. Can't really say much else about it. Kind of feeling a strong 9 to a 10 on this LP.
Harold's industrial hip-hop mixtape wins his team the game. Despite fucking bombing the performance for her team, Heather is not the one who gets voted off. This is for obvious reasons, as Heather plays a major role in later episodes. The character that gets booted is Justin. Like, I don't even know why, really. Heather just says she got Izzy and Owen to vote for him along with Lindsay and Beth, which just seems really forced. But Justin took the blame and walked down the dock of shame. Fun fact though, Justin didn't even have a speaking role in this episode. Well, actually, he didn't even speak throughout the first season save for like 3 lines in the first episode. Like, I think in this video I showed his entire time speaking on screen earlier. Huge disservice to the character, but I am glad that Season 2 reinvented him in a new, much better way. The next episode has our campers faced with the challenge of camping in the woods and returning the next morning. As you would expect, it's not as simple as the cast all pitching their tents and staying the night. The Screaming Gophers meet terror when Izzy disappears and a bear comes to their campsite. The cast is forced to climb into the trees and hide until the bear is revealed to be Izzy, just showing off her really cool bear costume. Hey, Izzy, can you send me the fursuiter's Twitter?
What's for dinner, woman? I'm starving.
I hope you don't expect me to dignify that with a response.
The Killer Bass seem to be doing better, and they even get to tell some scary stories by the campfire. But Bridget accidentally burns down the tent and the Killer Bass have to sleep with no shelter on a rainy night. So no one really gets a lot of sleep this episode.
Morning, sunshine.
Oh my gosh! Ew! You were cuddling me!
I was calmly lying on my back and trying to catch a few Z's. You were snuggling up to me.
You are such an ogre.
I've been called worse.
Okay, I just want to say for the record that I was totally asleep and therefore unconscious at the time of the alleged cuddling with said Neanderthal. So essentially, it's like it never happened.
The Killer Bass returned first, but still lose the challenge because, well, two of their members, Katie and Sadie, got sidetracked earlier in the episode. I didn't really bother to write about them because they're not that interesting. They fought, they struggled, they became besties again, whatever. Katie gets voted off because the Killer Bass are racist and voted the brown girl out first, and she and Sadie have a heartfelt goodbye after the elimination ceremony. Phobia Factor is an episode that, unlike most others, does not open up on a normal morning at Camp Wawanakwa. It starts with the night of the previous episode, with the Killer Bass all bummed out at their previous loss. The Screaming Gophers come over with a dessert that reminds DJ of his fear of snakes, and the whole gang ends up coming together and talking about their biggest fears.
Rookie mistake.
The next morning, they are faced with a challenge. Face the fears they had announced the night before on camera. Some of the fears stated make sense. For example, Owen and Izzy's fear is of flying, which I can understand. Gwen's is being buried alive, and Duncan is afraid of Celine Dion cardboard cutout standees. All realistic fears, but then you get Lindsay and Sadie saying they're afraid of bad haircuts, which I deal with every day.
The topic of this episode actually really makes it stand out in a positive sense. You get to see the characters in a new light, and it gives the show an excuse to be a bit more hyperbolic in its writing. It's one of the funnier episodes for sure.
There's also a lot of surprisingly emotionally potent moments, where you see characters overcome their often unlikely fears. One of my favorite scenes is Duncan facing his fear of Celine Dion, and it's one of the first glimpses we see of the bond Duncan and Courtney actually have. One other great part of the episode is Trent trying, but eventually failing, to help Gwen with her own fear of being buried alive. While she is relying on him to dig her up, he gets distracted by his own fear of mimes and loses focus.
Hey, do you ever feel like you've forgotten something?
Sometimes. I usually ignore it and the feeling goes away.
This show is pretty funny. I do like it.
The challenge ends up being a crushing loss for the Killer Bass, and the person I blame for it is Courtney, as Chris offered her team an instant victory despite their major points disadvantage if Courtney managed to face her fear of green jelly. But nope, she refused. But for some reason they booted Tyler, and I don't think it was a really well-written elimination, as he clearly wasn't that much worse at facing his fear than anyone else on the team, and Courtney directly lost her team a chance at winning.
Like Justin, this elimination is very forced. But it's not a big deal, because the characters who would have realistically gotten eliminated had a lot more to contribute to the story than the characters that got the unfair boot.
The next episode, Up the Creek, follows the campers as they attempt to canoe over to the haunted nearby Boney Island. They all split into small groups and take the chance to get to know whomever they're canoeing with. DJ and Jeff talk about their fears and relationship issues. Jeff made Bridget an arts and crafts project that everyone is shitting on him for, and I feel bad for him. Sure, what he made wasn't that great, but he put his heart into it. It cuts to Bridget and Courtney talking about how bad the little clay thing was, and it's just sad. Like, stop being so stuck up. He did something nice for you. Cody intercepts Gwen's desire to chill with Trent in order to try and woo her over, because Cody likes Gwen. However, Gwen does not reciprocate Cody's feelings and she makes it pretty clear to him that she's not interested. Cody decides to instead help Gwen move forward with Trent by putting in a good word for her, helping his dream girl find her dream guy, who is not him.
Beta.
One thing I should bring up that was really bizarre in this episode was Jeff's injury. Okay, so this show can be a bit silly at times. It's not always very realistic in its writing, but one thing they usually do is make the majority of the campers act pretty normal. Of course, there are exceptions like Izzy and Owen, but the campers in the show aren't really what make it bizarre or strange. It's more stuff like this fucking bear in the middle of the episode who is trying to learn how to use his glasses.
One major, very strangely written exception in this episode is when Jeff trips over and gets a splinter.
So he trips and suddenly the entire cast is looking at and treating him like he's horribly disfigured, to quote Bridget. But the joke is that he's barely hurt at all. They even zoom out of the injury to demonstrate how insignificant it is.
I've seen surfers get eaten by sharks before, but this was horrifying.
This is just really bad. There's no other episode like this where the joke is that the cast is completely overblowing something this minor. And there's no one in the cast that's like, what the fuck are you talking about? None of that. It's a really honestly dumb and stupid deviation from the show's established writing style and sense of absurdity that just breaks any understanding of the show's universe. Like, in other shows I can see a joke like this working, but in Total Drama, it's pretty established that the cast doesn't act like this, and would usually react normally to this kind of injury. It's just super weird and badly written. I'd like to know the backstory behind the decision to write the episode with such a bizarre element added, because I feel like it was someone's really bad decision. Anyway, because Izzy gave the Killer Bass advice on how to win the challenge, she pissed off her own team and was a candidate to get kicked off. But we don't actually see the results of this episode's elimination ceremony, because right before Chris hands out the last marshmallow, the RCMP shows up at the camp and attempts to arrest Izzy for blowing up their materials or something while she trained with them. So she runs off and essentially eliminates herself.
Surprisingly, Izzy is kind of relatable. I've never run from the RCMP before, but I have run from certain federal enforcement agencies, and it's not really that fun.
FBI, open up!
Oh, fuck!
The episode ends with a lot of the relationship struggles throughout kind of resolving themselves in a positive light, which is nice, for the time being, because one of our campers, Beth, broke a serious rule: do not take anything from the cursed island, and Beth found a cool tiki thing that was too cool not to take, which, we'll find out, was a bad idea. The next episode, I'm not kidding, is one of the best in the whole show, and the challenge absolutely helps. The title of the episode, Paintball Deer Hunter, gives you a decent picture. Half of each team is equipped with paintball guns, and the other half is equipped with deer cosplays. The paintballers have to shoot as many deer as they can, and the writers take advantage of this unique concept to show so many characters at their best.
Very funny. Now let me go.
Hey, Princess, this isn't my idea of fun either.
Great, Duncan. Now what?
You want to make out?
It gets really funny, because as you might expect, the challenge doesn't play out quite like intended. Owen chases DJ throughout the episode, narrating his own life like a really shitty Let's Player. He keeps failing and getting himself hurt due to DJ's naturally gifted instincts as a deer. There's good slapstick in this arc. Heather, Beth, and Lashana from the Screaming Gophers end up getting in an argument and shooting each other despite being on the same team. Eventually, they get sniped by the other team as well. And speaking of that, this is a major episode for Beth's development as a character. After being forced to lotion Heather's disgusting alligator skin and steal her a bag of chips, Beth grows sick of the Alliance and stands up for herself. It's really nice seeing her develop as a character. Unfortunately, this episode is another example of the situation where they had to kind of contrive an elimination to justify the campers not making the obvious decision to vote off Heather. Cody gets mauled by a bear and ends up all crippled and is voted off because of that. The episode ends hilariously, with Chris giving a speech talking to the campers like they all did an awful job, breaking all the rules and disrespecting the game, and then suddenly he shifts the mood and congratulates them for making such awesome TV content, which it was. Definitely one of the best episodes of the show for all its hilarious moments, even with a couple minor issues.
Oh, this is too much.
Duncan, you sly dog, you.
The girl can't keep her antlers off me. Can't even bend over.
So the next episode is also great, and follows the cast as they are challenged to prepare a 3-course meal for Chris. This gives us a chance to see the campers in an environment they're not usually in, and we learn some of them are surprisingly competent cooks.
I know how to make pasta sauce.
I know how to boil pasta.
Pasta? You're gonna make pasta? Fucking Canadians.
I always like to eat something while watching this episode, because it always makes me hungry. Or, at least that's what I would say if the subplot of this episode didn't have to do with Duncan and company stealing Harold's underwear and putting them in sandwiches for him to eat as a prank.
I really do appreciate the simplicity of a lot of these challenges. I think later on in the show's seasons, the challenges themselves got a little bit too complex for their own good, and didn't leave a lot of room for the characters to interact in interesting ways.
But in the first season, the challenges were relatively simple and didn't seem to feel the need to be over the top, and it makes for a much more, I don't know, cozy watching experience. It's like I'm at a summer camp with a bunch of other people my age and we're cooking and bantering and putting hot sauce in each other's underwear. I don't really get all comfy in this way with the other seasons of the show, except maybe parts of Action and World Tour. So after an unfortunate flambe accident, Heather burns her eyebrows off and then gets locked in the refrigerator by Lashana. Without Heather's poor leadership, the Screaming Gophers actually end up putting together a decent meal, and they decide to leave Owen to guard the food.
Which is very nice of them. I admire the fact that they don't immediately discredit his ability to watch the food based on his plus-size body type alone.
Owen eats all the ribs. So the Gophers lose the challenge, and Beth is found out for stealing the tiki thing from the cursed island, which, I'm not much of a mystical person, but based on their awful losing streak the last few episodes, perhaps the legend is true. So Beth gets voted off even though Owen literally ate the meal and everyone hates Heather. Wow. There's a lot of tension in both teams. Not a lot of trust.
Hi, Chris here. Sometimes teams just don't get along. So the producers and I thought that the best way to work through the group friction would be to exploit it for laughs.
So in this episode, there's gonna be a bunch of trust-based challenges. I actually think this was the first episode of the show I watched, all those years ago. Heather and Gwen are paired against DJ and Duncan for the first challenge, which, I mean, whatever. Heather and Gwen hate each other, but it's just some rock climbing with explosives and stuff.
Come on, Gwen. You don't want to fall behind.
Ah!
Well, you don't see that every day.
No, you don't, my man. No, you don't.
I'm starting to think I know why I liked this show so much as a kid. Next challenge. Nice stunt double, Chris. The next scene is an eating challenge, where both teams are forced to prepare and eat a poisonous blowfish. Doesn't go so well for the screaming gophers and Trent after he eats it, but Bridget turns out to be able to safely cut up the fish. The rest of the episode has a few less interesting and more slapsticky challenges that don't amount to much, other than the crab apple challenge where campers have to shoot crab apples at arrows on the other campers' heads. Sadie is not very good at shooting the crab apples, and ends up accidentally hitting a lot of people and losing her team the challenge. She gets eliminated because of this, which is a little bit forced, but overall she wasn't really doing much on her own without Katie. I should also mention the subplot where DJ asks Jeff to watch his pet rabbit for a bit, and the bunny gets eaten by a snake, and then the snake gets killed by an eagle, and then the eagle gets eaten by a shark. Jeff lies and tells DJ the rabbit ran away, but that wasn't good enough for the badass ex-convict Duncan. He ends up luring another rabbit back to camp and giving it to DJ, telling him it was the same rabbit coming back, which is very nice of him, and really fleshes out Duncan as a character.
Thanks, Duncan. You're the best.
I kinda went back to this episode not really expecting to like it much, but it's actually better than I remember.
Speaking of good episodes, wow, we are on a roll. And it's not done yet. We're about to get to my favorite episode of the whole show.
This next episode follows the two teams as they are put through one of their most rigorous challenges yet. Military training with Chef Hatchet, which includes obstacle courses, thriller-inspired dance routines, and all sorts of weird rules.
Rule number 1, you will address me as Master Chief. Have you got that?
A little LARPy, but whatever. So the first part of the challenge is holding up a canoe, which isn't so bad. But imagine holding up a canoe for 12 hours, without food. After that, the cast gets to eat garbage for dinner before their next challenge.
For your next challenge, you will complete a 300-word essay about how much you love me.
I remember first watching this episode as a kid and thinking, 300 words? That's so many! That's a hard challenge. But honestly, now that I'm older, that challenge isn't very hard. I can write 300 words in less than 15 minutes. Maybe I'm just overworked though, considering how long this fucking script is. This doesn't stop some contestants from finding loopholes in the writing prompt.
I love Master Chief Hatchet because he is very, 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 very. This is just one sentence with 5 pages of varies in between.
It's 300 words exactly. You can count them if you want.
I'll be honest though, the challenge for this episode is fine, but it's not the reason I like it so much. I like it because of Duncan and Courtney.
In general, this episode shows the killer bass at their best. Duncan and Jeff are playing good pranks on Harold, and Courtney and Duncan are having some great dialogue. Duncan consistently is testing Chef's limits, and Courtney keeps reprimanding him, pretending she doesn't care when she clearly does. And when Duncan pushes Chef to his limit and gets locked in the boathouse, Courtney comes to give him some comfort, I guess. And this is where the episode gets good. Duncan and Courtney have an actually really honest conversation about their opposite natures and insecurities. The whole season has been building up to them finally being more vulnerable around each other, and it's really satisfying to see.
Okay, so maybe I do follow the rules. I guess that makes me a big, uptight loser in your books, right?
Maybe.
Ugh!
So then why do you follow them?
Because not following them gets you thrown into a fish cabin!
But I'm in the fish cabin with you, aren't I?
He's good.
Duncan and Courtney decide to try and break some rules and get a quick thrill by sneaking into the staff tent and stealing a shit ton of food, which makes for a really nice scene. And then we get to see all the campers fooling around, eating snacks, and enjoying each other's company. It's really nice. It just feels like everyone is in a good mood and the energy is high. Very comfy. I like it. And then finally, Duncan and Courtney kiss. And aw, that's just so rewarding.
It's funny, because I used to always think shipping was totally lame. I just thought it was stupid, pointless, and a waste of time. But Duncan and Courtney are the only exception. My soul resembles that of a 12-year-old girl writing Wattpad novels about her favorite ships from Italia and Warrior Cats when it comes to these two.
So the Screaming Gophers win the challenge due to Gwen's endurance to gravity torture, which is surprising. Of all the campers in the show, Gwen did the best in boot camp. Impressive. But it's time for the elimination. Who will it be?
This is the final marshmallow of the night. Harold. Yes!
No. No! No! No!
You guys think you're so funny. Let's see how you like it when someone messes with your love life.
Harold, you piece of shit! You fucking cheater! You knew you were gonna be kicked off the fucking show! Fuck you, you fucking asshole! I'll kill you! Courtney leaving the show is indeed sad, but this is still my favorite episode. It's comfy, funny, and wholesome all at once. And even though Courtney was literally illegitimately eliminated, her walk of shame scene was one of the best. Our next episode has the campers engage in all sorts of extreme sports challenges, ones that realistically would likely kill them. Ouch. This show really has a habit of putting Trent through serious pain. Throughout the episode, a bear gets in all sorts of antics as he tries to steal marshmallows from the camp. There's a nice bit of slapstick and humor in the absurdity of it all, and overall, it's more interesting than the actual episode.
That's a joke, by the way. The actual episode gets pretty interesting.
Gwen and Bridget come across an anonymous love letter with a haiku during the episode and have no idea whom the letter is addressed to. The two argue over it, claiming the poem was actually written for them. But after finding out that Jeff doesn't even know what a haiku is, and Trent has no real response to the question, they expand their horizons to other campers.
So, read any good poems lately?
So, asked any arbitrary way out of left field questions lately?
The tiebreaker challenge near the end of the episode turns out not quite like what you would expect. It's a mud jet ski thing where one camper drives and a camper on the opposite team has to ski and pick up flags to win. But Heather, knowing that there are basically no rules, decides to try and cut Harold off the line while she's driving.
Game over, Guppy!
Victory is... Huh?
Milky, milky, warm and tasty.
Holy shit, that bear is one lucky fuck.
I think it's time we talk about this show's adult sense of humor.
I was thinking of talking about it when Gwen's panties were shown and we saw Chris and Duncan admiring her ass, but this episode really has the peak of sexual humor in the season. Total Drama teeters on the edge of a lot of adult jokes sometimes. Only sometimes though. Occasionally, they just go all the way. Every few episodes you'll see a character butt fucking naked, with just a bit of censors, which I can barely get away with. This episode particularly has a scene where Jeff flies across the camera in slow motion with no pants and no underwear, and I almost forgot to bring that up. I mean, shows like SpongeBob show characters with comedic nudity occasionally, but those are also super abstract looking sea creatures. Total Drama, these are human teenagers. A lot of it is done for physical and embarrassment comedy, but I'm surprised how much this show got away with at first. Unfortunately, the more accessible copies of the show, like the Netflix version, have implemented a lot of censors. But even with those censors, this show gets away with a lot. They censor a lot of weird things, even terms like fat boy or moron, but they don't do anything about the clip where Heather's tits are shown on the screen. But the episode does censor the word boobies and replaces it with chest. It's funny, because if you watch this on Netflix, it has all the censors added, but the closed captions aren't updated, so it's super awkward. Most of the censored lines aren't really even that well lip-synced. Being a young kid who didn't know about sex or anything, I still found myself kind of drawn to total drama for touching more frisky subjects that 8-year-olds probably shouldn't be engaging in. Even in the first season, there were occasionally jokes about homosexuality and stuff. And without getting political, I find that very interesting. This was before that kind of stuff was more accepted in kids' entertainment. I think the first thing that drew me to the show was the fact that it was the closest thing a kid my age could watch to pornography.
Except for actual pornography, because all you need to watch porn in America is a very basic understanding of Google along with the ability to press a button, which is why the average age of first exposure to pornographic content in America is 11.
So the Screaming Gophers win the challenge, but there still are a few loose ends in this episode.
So we ruled out Owen and DJ.
I know. So who could it be?
Who could what be?
Another note from your secret admirer, Lashana?
Lashana's the crush girl?
You two know someone else here with a kick-butt attitude? Like mine?
Now that is one of the most poorly censored voice lines in the show. Holy shit.
You two know someone else here with a booty as luscious as an apple?
But we still don't know who Lashana's secret admirer is, which sucks, because I really want to know.
But alas, it is time for the elimination ceremony, and the unlucky loser tonight is Harold. Not because he cheated or anything, just because no one knew how he so quickly lost his concentration in the mudski challenge. He takes it pretty well though.
Farewell, Total Drama Island. I loved, I lost, and I saw boobies. What more can a man ask for? Lashana, I meant every word of that poem.
Wow.
Poem? That was you?
No way.
Baby, you some kind of freaky.
Give Daddy some sugar.
Wow. When this show originally aired, a short bonus clip would follow every major new episode. These clips were usually around 30 seconds in length, and almost all of them featured the character who was last eliminated in their audition for the show. For example, Courtney shows off her controlling personality by trying to explain why she should be added to the show, but flubs it and starts talking about her campaign for student government. Cody, Beth, and I think like 3 other characters film themselves singing and dancing until their parents yell at them for making so much noise. Ezekiel literally impales his mom. I actually enjoy watching through these clips. I guess they're a nice glimpse of the characters in their lives outside of the reality show, and it gives them a little bit more depth, even if it just makes them 30 seconds deeper. Anyway, we just finished the 13th episode of the show, which officially marks the halfway point. The next episode is kind of filler to transition the teams to the merge. It is centered on an eating challenge where boys and girls compete against each other instead of the official teams, and no one gets eliminated.
Because of that, this episode doesn't do much to advance the plot, and is mostly just dedicated to gross out humor and slapstick.
And there's a lot of gross out humor, because the challenge is the Brunch of Disgustingness, where our poor campers have to eat all sorts of gross shit, like bull testicles and pizza with grasshoppers on it. It's a pretty simple concept, and very gross. But I also am easily grossed out when it comes to food and stuff, so I'm being biased here. There's barf, there's cockroach smoothies, but it doesn't overstay its welcome too much. One thing that bothers me about this episode is the animation. In the script, they say it clearly that to win the round, every member of the team must eat the entire dish. But in some cases, the characters just seem to bite the meal and that's good enough. I'm being kind of negative, but I wouldn't recommend skipping this episode or anything. I think it does do a decent job at setting up the merged cast and their relationships, especially the friendships between characters who previously didn't interact much due to being on different teams. The sheer grossness of the challenge does lead to a few funny moments as well.
Are we here to argue, or are we here to eat a series of revolting meals?
Whoa, big guy! No taking seconds until everybody's had a slice.
Episode 15 is the first episode where the teams are officially merged. Almost every challenge only has one possible winner, so at the end of every episode, nearly everyone is game for elimination.
I always like it when the teams merge. I think at this point in every season, the cast is thin enough that they can all have a decent amount of screen time.
The free-for-all style also lets characters who were formerly in different teams develop relationships with each other. For most of the show before this, with a few exceptions later on, characters in opposite teams very rarely had major interactions with each other. Most campers would just talk to campers from their own team, but now that the teams are gone, we get to see characters like Duncan and Owen or Gwen and Jeff talk more than they would before the merge. This episode does not just mark the teams merging, it also sees the return of two previous contestants. Izzy, who was never technically eliminated because she just ran off and lived in the forest for like 8 episodes, and Eva, who came back because Chris liked how angry she was all the time.
Wait a sec. You said no one is allowed back.
I did.
And once you leave...
And once you leave on the dock of shame, on the boat of losers, you can never, ever come back. Oh yeah, that. Yeah, I lied.
You can't do that. It's not fair. Whoa, girl, you're reasoning with a loudspeaker. That just does not look good.
I'm actually really glad they brought both of these characters back, because I think they had too much potential for the amount of time they had in the competition before their first elimination. Eva is really mad at her team for voting her off. I can kind of understand her. She was sort of sabotaged by Heather, but I don't know why she specifically targets Bridget and not Duncan, DJ, or Jeff. Maybe it's a gender thing? I don't know. Izzy, however, is not back to take care of any unfinished business. She's just back for some fun, I guess. This week's challenge is pretty simple. Just endure a bunch of random pain challenges like fighting Bigfoot or getting wrapped in poison ivy or listening to new age music and you win. We do get to see Izzy and Eva in the spotlight though, and Izzy especially has a lot of funny moments. Eva is really angry and is constantly yelling and threatening people, especially Bridget, and she kind of mends the divide among the girls. Heather and Lashana's rivalry is put on pause because everyone is so freaked out and mad at Eva for being angry all the time, and also getting back in the game for no reason. After Izzy eliminates herself by successfully completing a challenge she gave herself, it's kinda weird, Lashana wins the challenge by defeating a Russian circus bear in a log-rolling sudden death competition.
I've reviewed the confessionals, and I have to say, there's lots of hate on in this group, which is awesome!
I'm sure you can guess how this elimination goes.
Since Lashana's immune, there's no other choice but rageaholic Eva. Eva's a freak. Please, please, Eva! I'm so glad you never air these.
Eva's nuts. Sorry, girl.
Eva's anger issues and also the fact that she was brought back to the season without doing most of the challenge for no reason made her an easy pick for elimination. Honestly, this is one of the stranger decisions in the season, bringing back a character and immediately dropping them. My personal theory is that they just wanted to meme around for an episode without having to drop any important characters. This is the 15th episode, and there's only 10 characters without the added 2, and the math doesn't really work out for a 26 episode season without a couple challenges with no elimination and stuff. I always forget that Eva came back though because of how short it was.
This next episode's juicy.
It's a bit of a non-traditional challenge. There are a bunch of treasure chests that need a key to be opened. One of the chests has a pass for immunity. Each camper is randomly given a challenge to find their key. Owen has to find a key that is tied to a bear, while Heather has to sneak in a chef's kitchen.
Some campers have an easier time than others.
Trent successfully finds his key really early and decides to help Gwen get her key from a skunk hole. Skunks aren't necessarily as dangerous as bears or sharks, but getting sprayed does not sound fun. Trent helps Gwen flush the skunk out and get the key, and then we get a sweet moment.
Aww, what a trust-building, heartwarming moment. Did I see tongue?
Although these two were really big on each other earlier on, Gwen started being moody all the time because Trent forgot to dig her up when she was buried alive and stuff. It's nice to see them actively flirting and stuff again though.
That's just too much. Everyone knows that boyfriend-girlfriend is just another way to say alliance. And my alliance is gonna be the only alliance on this island.
Between all the campers going through the antics to get their keys, Heather calls an alliance meeting about Gwen and Trent. Also, Izzy is suddenly part of the alliance. I don't know when that happened. Heather makes a master plan to destroy Gwen and Trent's relationship by tricking him into kissing her in front of Gwen. If she sees the guy she likes kissing her worst enemy on the island, well, that will probably come up in couples therapy. She lures Trent in and starts playing victim, crying about how mean Gwen is. I think this scene is a bit flawed, because Trent is way too trusting of Heather even though he spent several weeks with her and has seen her bicker with everyone at several points. She's not like secretly mean or anything, she's pretty openly a bitch to everyone most of the time.
I'm just so surprised to hear you supporting her, you know, after all the horrible things that she says about you. Oops.
What do you mean?
I feel terrible telling you this. I promised I wouldn't say a word, but you should know that Gwen confided in the girls last week that she really can't stand you and thinks you're a total cliche. Your music sucks, and she's only stringing you along to get further in the game.
Holy shit, Heather. You really know how to do this.
Maybe Gwen thinks your music sucks, but I think you're really talented.
Rape! 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 Trent did not consent! What the fuck, Heather? This is such a fucking double standard. God fucking damn it. I think some of this scene's given circumstances are a bit contrived, but I can't deny that it still is a highlight in the season, especially once Lashana finds out and goes all around camp telling people to help eliminate Heather. And they all look disgusted like, yo, what the fuck, Heather? So the campers that got their keys open up their chests, and most of them get pretty shitty knickknacks and stuff. Not really worth some of the shit they had to go through. Heather very conveniently gets immunity. Real lucky. And because of that, I think you might have a decent idea who's getting voted off. Gwen and Trent quickly found out that Heather turned them against each other and all the shit she said was fake. But because Lashana acted quickly to tell everyone what had happened, Trent got the fat boot.
It's okay. Whatever happened, happened. At least we both know that we're still okay. We're still okay, right?
Yes.
I want you to be tough and fight to the end, for both of us. I'll be watching and cheering for you back home.
The episode ends off with Lashana fucking with the plumbing in order to pour a bunch of shit and sewage on Heather as she showers, which is a bit of justice, but really, she still has a shot at the grand prize, so the poop she gets covered in now doesn't mean much. This is one of the better episodes though, even though it's another example of Heather fucking Houdiniing herself out of elimination. If she hadn't just randomly gotten the right chest, she would have been eliminated for sure. And that kind of is a bit too convenient, and it really was an awful plan when one considers that. But the drama and interactions between Gwen and Trent in this episode are too good that the corner cutting and how Heather sparks the fight are kind of worth it. Hide and Go Seek is the next episode's challenge, and I think the challenge's simplicity works to its advantage in this case. Well, it would be, but there are extra rules involving Chef and his water gun and shit, and it's actually kind of confusing. If you don't get caught, you get invincibility, but you can also get caught and lead Chef to another camper who is hiding, and that gives you invincibility as well. Some campers have an easier time hiding than others. Lashana uses a snorkel to hide under home base. Out in the forest in the cave, the male campers are talking strategy. Duncan has noticed that there are 6 girls on the island and 4 guys, and recognizes the danger that poses.
Let me tell you the truth about women. They're all sisters, and when push comes to shove, they're gonna stick together.
Jeez, I'm just not sure.
Are you sure now?
Okay! We'll form our own alliance!
The 4 agree to ally for the time being, even though Jeff is reluctant about allying without his girlfriend Bridget. Heather looks for a hiding place inside the mess hall, and Lindsay chooses to follow her seeing as they are in an alliance and all that.
Hey, Heather! What a coincidence! We're just like destined to hide together.
What? What are you doing here? Can't you find your own hiding place?
But...
Unfortunately for both Heather and Lindsay, Chef finds them and they both get sprayed. One highlight of this episode is Izzy's unorthodox method of hiding from Chef. Izzy and Chef both are insane in very different and very complementary ways, and the writers and animation team seem to have a lot of fun orchestrating their scenes together. Izzy's taunt was not a bad one, but really Chef's build wasn't really designed based off of status moves, and he was easily able to catch her and eliminate her from the game.
We here at Switchy Productions endorse Izzy's decision to not snitch on Lashana. Snitches are bad, and we at Switchy recognize how much snitches fucking suck. Snitches get stitches.
Owen and DJ come across each other on the mess hall rooftop, and because their combined weight is too much for the roof to handle, the roof caves in and they both are screwed.
You guys are so busted.
Hey, I've got an idea. Since there are two of them, why don't I bust one of them so we both get invincibility?
Hey, I've got an idea. Find your own.
We here at Switchy Productions disavow Heather for snitching on Owen and DJ. Snitching is a pussy bitch move that appeals to the illegitimate authority Chef has. Snitches get stitches. Also, not allowing Lindsay, her ally, to be able to get immunity is just cruel, especially because Heather wasn't losing anything in the process.
Chef catches several other campers as their individual hiding strategies fail for them in all sorts of ways.
I wonder where Duncan is hiding.
How should I know? It's not like the guys are forming a guys-only alliance or anything. Okay, they are forming one, but I'm not a part of it. Okay, you broke me. There is an alliance and I joined it and I'm not supposed to tell you, but I did. There, are you happy?
Wow, I really had to drag that out of you.
We here at Switchy Productions actively disavow Owen for snitching on his own alliance, even if he was put in a situation of stress. Accidental snitching is still snitching. Snitches get stitches.
Lashana ends up being the only camper who is able to successfully evade capture by Chef, and wins immunity. Heather also gets immunity for being a snitch. The unlucky camper who gets kicked off is Bridget, and Duncan can really see it coming, because the girls are too mad at each other. They weren't able to properly organize to retaliate against the boys' alliance. Bridget was a nice person and also was good at sports. She's decent competition and it was an understandable decision to make. Jeff, however, admits to not actually voting for her because he didn't want to vote against his girlfriend, which is sweet, but he does get punished for it by Duncan. So Jeff and Bridget lean in for a kiss, but like most other couple elimination moments, they don't actually end up kissing, because Bridget was sprayed by skunks early in the episode and still fucking reeks. The episode ends with Jeff being forced to sleep outside by the boys. The next episode is centered around a bike building and bike racing challenge, which is cool, I guess. I was always more of a scooter guy. The campers need to use a bunch of old bike parts and a moldy manual to make bikes from scratch. Whoever builds and rides the bike that wins the race gains immunity. Surprisingly, the campers do a decent job. Like, if you gave me a bunch of old bike parts and a book and told me to make my own bicycle, I would probably not make anything really safe to ride. I'd probably more easily build like a calculator or something. Heather convinces Lindsay to dismantle a motorcycle Chef has to use its parts for her bike, and even with some resistance, Lindsay ends up doing it. Right. I'm surprised Lindsay is as competent as she is in this episode. She builds 2 bikes, one rigged with stolen motorcycle parts, and both bikes work. The guys are in their alliance, Lindsay and Heather still are working as a pair, and all that's left are Izzy, Lashana, and Gwen. Gwen and Lashana try to work together to build their bikes, but Lashana just ends up ditching the challenge and rides with Izzy's 2-person bike.
Sweet! Your extra weight will totally help out with our speed!
I'm gonna take that as a compliment.
Okay!
It doesn't go well. The challenge is actually kind of complicated. After the bikes are built, the characters have to switch their bikes and race them to see which bikes are the best. Then, the owner of said winning bikes get to race for invincibility. The 4 campers with the best bikes are Owen, Duncan, Heather, and Lindsay. While the first race was on a clear beach, the second race includes all sorts of total drama staples, like landmines and piranhas, a much harder ride than the first part.
Oh, and one more thing. First one to cross wins invincibility. Last one to cross gets voted off the island. No bonfire, do not pass go, do not collect a marshmallow.
Why?
So most episodes of the show have a pretty simple rule set. There's a challenge, and the team or individual player that wins the challenge is immune, and cannot be voted for in the campfire elimination ceremony. But for some reason, this episode does not have that. The last of the 4 campers who won the first challenge to cross the finish line is immediately eliminated. Which is, well, kind of contrived and really stupid. Chris says the first person to cross the finish line wins immunity, but don't literally everyone in between and those not participating in the challenge also have immunity by default? The only thing I can think sort of justifies this is the fact that the winners of the first challenge just built the bikes, and the victory could be a result of either the quality of the bike or the proficiency of the person riding it. But because the person riding it gets no real accolades, the second part of the challenge is less of a winning bracket and more of a part 2 that just takes select campers with less emphasis on the campers being winners or not. But if that's the case, that's still pretty stupid. It's just kind of hard to justify this plot point. The questions I'm asking though are pretty rhetorical. You'll see in a bit why they have the challenge format like this. Now, with the stakes as high as they are, there is a bit more stress here among the competitors than usual.
Okay, so here's our strategy. We have to stick together so that one of us wins the race. So, you go first and clear a path through the mines.
Uh-huh.
Then, go through the oil slick so I can see how to get through it.
Okay.
If you make it through those 2 parts, then the third part is easy. Just keep the piranhas busy while I sneak through.
Wow, Heather. Wow.
I was thinking it would be really fun if I won a challenge for myself for once.
Don't worry. If the piranhas don't eat you, then you'll definitely be second, which means Owen or Duncan gets voted off, and we make it through another bonfire ceremony. I have no way of knowing if she'll come in second. The only thing that's really important is that I come in first. Invincibility is everything.
Except it isn't. You literally just have to not lose. There's no invincibility to even win. Sorry for fixating on this, but it's just bothering me. Owen almost immediately wipes out by riding over a landmine, and Duncan loses control of his bike on the oil.
And we have our winner, Heather!
Well, that's a shame. I really like Owen. It sucks that he's leaving. He's one of the funniest characters on the show, but given that he's the first to wipe out, I guess he's eliminated.
He did it! We're safe!
That's not exactly true. Heather is safe because her bike crossed the line first, but since Duncan and Owen wiped out and didn't complete the race, they technically didn't cross the line at all, which makes you the last one to cross the line, which means it's Dock of Shame time, baby.
Okay, that's bullshit. Like, that makes no sense. This episode literally makes no sense. Lindsay gets booted for getting second place out of 4 when 2 people failed to even complete. Like, what the hell? The answer to my complaints from a writing perspective is pretty simple. They wanted to boot off Lindsay, but couldn't think of a better reason to kick her off.
And that is a minor problem with a few of the later episodes. They sometimes have to really engineer an episode to kick a character out, and it's really obvious. The thing is that at this point in the season, the cast all know each other and are relatively friendly, at least when you look past some cartoon hyperbole, so having a character get kicked off every episode with a merged cast is a bit hard to write. With the teams, it's a bit easier. You can just include a scene where the character you want to boot fucks up the challenge for the losing team. But with a merged team, where getting voted off is very much not correlated with being a good or bad player, it's harder to find a reason to kick off most characters besides the relationships with the rest of the cast. Really? If Heather didn't win invincibility like every episode, she would be the #1 candidate for the Dock of Shame every single time.
Okay, I'm so confused.
It means I can't save you unless I give you my invincibility. But I can't do that. Too risky.
Invincibility from what?
But I won! I even built your bike.
I don't know what she's talking about. You should just leave with your dignity intact. It will make you seem much more cuter in the instant replays.
But we were going to the final 3 together.
Guess we're not.
Aren't you even sad? We're BFFs.
Yeah, for the contest. I mean, it's not like we're gonna be best friends for life or anything.
I can't believe she said that! You mean, I've been helping you all this time and you didn't even like me?
Truth? Not really, no. What? We're not here to make friends. We're here to become celebrities, remember?
You really are mean! And all that bad stuff people say about you is true! Like how you're a two-faced, backstabbing, lying little... I always told them they were wrong. I stood up for you because I thought we were BFFs. But they're right! You really are a two-faced, backstabbing, lying little...
Your mother is a f***ing lorem ipsum.
I'm just gonna say it straight up. This is a huge contender for one of the best individual moments in the show. Heather and Lindsay's shitty alliance has been built up for almost 20 episodes, and seeing it finally reach its end in such a dramatic and raunchy way is fucking legendary. Remember, this aired on kids' TV. By the way, if you read Lindsay's lips, what she says at the start is eerily similar to the term fucking bitch, so that's what she called Heather in my headcanon. It's a shame that this scene got censored for the newer versions, and it's a double shame that they replaced it with something as poorly written and poorly mixed as it was. Most of the censored words stick out awfully, but when it goes on for several seconds like it does in this scene, it sounds like an awful fan dub.
Like how you're a two-faced, backstabbing, lying little, no-good, selfish, heartless, pushy, bossy, mean bully of a girl!
Even though Lindsay's elimination was forced, like awfully forced, it is overall made up for me with fantastic execution of the drama surrounding it, and that is a good way of describing the episode as a whole. The episode had to really play with the show's formula in order to get rid of Lindsay, and on repeated viewings this only becomes more and more obvious, but I think this in some ways worked to its benefit. First of all, we see a character eliminated with the remaining cast on her side. No one wanted Lindsay gone, and because of that her elimination is more heartfelt to the rest of the cast than most others. It's a nice change of pace, I guess. And the other benefit of this episode's forced writing is obviously seeing Lindsay calling Heather a fucking bitch. Like, that's so entertaining and one of the best parts of the show. So, I like the episode overall, but it definitely does have its fundamental issues. The next episode starts out with the cast watching a horror film about a psycho chainsaw killer who kills a teenage couple in the forest. All the characters have their own unique reactions. Owen and Izzy bond over their enjoyment of the gore. Heather is uninterested. Gwen and Duncan are nerding out over their scary movie obsession, and DJ, predictably, is crying like a little bitch. There's some banter surrounding DJ's cowardice with Duncan bringing out his famous hook joke, and everyone laughs at DJ's expense.
Does anyone have any idea what our challenge will be this week?
Yeah! Where's the Christmeister?
Hey, yo, chef! Where's the fire?
After Chris and Chef's suspicious departure from the island, the campers come across a newspaper the two accidentally left behind.
Escaped psycho killer on the loose. Be on the lookout for a man wearing a hockey mask with a hooked hand and carrying a chainsaw.
Bullshit.
Oh, come on! They don't expect us to fall for this. Scary movie, followed by hasty exit, followed by strategically placed lame prop.
Yeah, Heather's got a point. This is pretty suspicious. But, to be fair, I am kind of paranoid. Even if it seems like a setup for a challenge, I'd be the first to lock myself in a room with all the weapons I can find just to be safe. Most of the cast seems a bit suspicious until Owen finds Chris's hair gel in the back, and suddenly, everyone is convinced. There's a psycho killer on the loose.
I can't help it. I feel like we're being watched.
Duh, it's a reality show. We're always being watched.
Heather's right. And tonight, we're watching to see who can survive a real-life scary movie. With special guest appearance by... the escaped psycho killer with the chainsaw and a hook!
Under the circumstances that they may very well be in the presence of a serial killer, the campers try and organize a plan for their own survival. Well, except Heather, who is very convinced this is all nonsense and goes off to the bathroom alone.
Not a good idea.
Gwen takes a leadership role to try and survive the situation, and everyone left decides to follow her. Everyone except Owen and Izzy, that is, who go into the forest.
These campers are idiots.
Though I will say, this episode does have a lot of fun poking fun at tropes and scenes in horror films. It's pretty self-aware.
Okay, rule number 1, do not go off on your own. Rule number 2, if you do go off on your own, never go in the woods. Rule number 3, if you do go in the woods, never, ever, ever make out in the woods, or you will die in the woods. Where's Izzy and Owen?
Breaking rules 1 through 3.
Owen feels really uneasy about walking through the woods alone with Izzy, and when he finally is reminded of the psycho killer, he kind of freaks out.
Great balls of fire! That's it! The psycho killer! Remember how we left the woods to hack apart the couple who were making out?
But we're not making out.
Oh, yeah.
You wanna make out?
Yes! Oh.
Unfortunately for our two lovebirds, right when they're finally making out and probably doing more, they are confronted by Chef dressed up as the serial killer. The two naturally run for their lives. We get some surprisingly really funny slapstick until the two are finally cornered, and Owen uses Izzy as bait to distract the killer and run.
Fair.
Owen runs directly to the tent where Chris is, and Izzy comes as well soon after being caught by Chef.
You punked us?
Yes and no. It was your challenge to watch a scary movie, then survive one.
Yeah. Did you hear that? He was bunking us. It was a joke. Too funny. Oh, I was all, and then you were all, yee.
Poor guy.
DJ and Jeff leave the group to use the bathroom, and you know how this goes. DJ is paranoid about being alone in the bathroom when a serial killer is on the loose, and of course freaks out.
I don't blame him though. My biggest fear is being murdered while I'm naked in the shower or something. That would suck.
Hello?
Whoa there, Heather.
DJ, it's me! Heather!
DJ screams at the top of his lungs and runs as far away as he can, absolutely terrified. It's a montage that goes on for like half a minute. So pretty much everyone but Gwen and Duncan go off and get caught in some way. All that's left are the two horror movie fanatics. Well, that is until Duncan lights the board where they were keeping track of the people left on fire, and Gwen runs off to get water.
Wow.
Duncan intentionally runs off to see if he could beat the killer in a fight, which is pretty badass, though Gwen is pretty pissed off that no one took her legitimate concern seriously and gives up.
Thought you could scare me? Ha! Now let's see who's behind the mask.
Wow, that's actually really impressive. Duncan literally took on someone he thought was a serial killer and beat them. Granted, he waited until everyone else was presumed dead, but still.
I wasn't born yesterday, dude. Please, we watch a scary movie with an escaped psycho killer with a chainsaw and a hook, and here you are running around.
Wait a second. Did Chef have a Michael Jackson moment? Does he have a skin disease or something? Also, why is the chainsaw suddenly attached again?
Holy fucking shit.
This could be really, really good for ratings, but really, really bad for lawsuits.
Okay, I know actors without speaking parts don't get paid much, but seriously, dude, invest in a dental plan and some toothpaste. Look, you can drop the charade, okay? I know you're an actor with a hook prop, and frankly, you're not that scary.
He's the real escape psycho killer with a chainsaw and a hook!
What?
Ow! Oh, that was totally uncalled for. Man, I am so out of here. I was treated way better in prison.
Whoever gave him the stereotypical gay accent deserves a raise.
So the ending of this episode is kind of confusing. After Gwen literally survives an attempted murder from a serial killer, it cuts to the elimination ceremony where Gwen wins invincibility, and DJ gets eliminated because he didn't even lose due to being confronted by the killer. But it's not clear whether he was voted off or not. I mean, if I was in the elimination that episode, I wouldn't vote for him because having someone as cowardly as him as an adversary for longer just seems like a good strategy. I would probably vote for Heather. My theory is that, like in other episodes where Heather doesn't win, they need to keep her in the cast, so they're just being a bit vague on how the elimination was decided to justify having her in the game longer. I can't complain though, I wouldn't have a better solution. But regardless, the cast has a nice wholesome goodbye and the episode ends. And this episode actually kicks ass. It's easily one of the funniest in the whole show, and a major highlight throughout the season. It's a nice change of pace both in terms of writing style and just visuals as well, taking place primarily at night, which contrasts the rest of the episodes. The next episode is pretty simple in concept. The campers are given a certain animal to search for in the forest and bring back unharmed. Which, I mean, is already kind of hard in real life, but the animals in Total Drama Island are self-aware and often smarter than the people, so it's hard to really gauge how difficult each individual animal is to catch. The variety of creatures campers have to catch going from a chipmunk to a bear is already funny, but the fact that they really have nothing useful to do it with is pretty funny as well.
I assume I'm the favorite to win. I mean, look who's left. Weird goth girl, a criminal, a fart machine, a party dude, a psycho hose beast, and Lashana.
Is that all you have to say to describe Lashana? Are you sure?
Duncan and Heather decide to try doing an alliance for the time being, but considering that Duncan is a criminal and Heather is the most hated camper, it obviously doesn't go well. Duncan catches his raccoon pretty early and offers to help Heather catch her animal, the bear. All they have is a set of deer antlers and a deer tail. Hey, can I borrow that after you guys? So the plan is that Heather dresses as a deer to lure a bear back to camp somehow despite not smelling like it or anything. Unfortunately for her, Izzy, who has to catch a deer, accidentally shoots Heather thinking she's actually a deer. She also shoots down a plane earlier in the episode. Gwen wins overall, but one thing I noticed is that she wasn't acknowledged as getting her invincibility in the elimination ceremony. When there's only one marshmallow left, she looks all nervous when she literally won the challenge. So Izzy gets eliminated, I guess because she went kinda crazy with the tranquilizer darts. I don't need to talk about the questions and concerns I have about the specifics of the elimination process again though. This one makes a decent amount of sense. This episode is overall fun, but it doesn't really do anything that really sets it apart from the others. The concept is simple and there's nothing really important that I feel like I really need to discuss. There is some good slapstick though, and the creative scenes the writers came up with where campers try and catch animals are really funny. The next episode starts off with Owen having a dream where he's butt naked and just chilling out in a world made of cheese.
I should note that the age of consent in Canada is 16.
But how does this work? If the show was filmed on a camera, how are Owen's dreams about eating cheese being broadcasted on TV? He then is gifted with a shipment of giant donuts tied to helicopters, which make their way into his dream through Chris actually being in a loud-ass helicopter outdoors.
And after 6 weeks of bugs, crappy camp food, and even grosser bathrooms, our 6 finalists are about this close to losing it. We strove to come up with the best way to help the campers de-stress, then decided it would be way more fun to handcuff them together and see if we couldn't push them over the edge.
Oh no! Oh gee whiz, that's terrible. I would certainly hate to be forcibly handcuffed to a female around my age for a long period of time. Oh gee whiz, I would hate to be in such close proximity to a girl.
6 long weeks. I don't know how much more of this I can take. The person who's creasing me the most? Jeff. The guy is in a permanently good mood.
Really, Gwen? Not the girl who literally broke you up with your boyfriend after reading your diary on national TV? Really? What the episode actually is doing is setting up the relationship between Gwen and Jeff that's going to be explored in this episode. Not a romantic relationship, just an exploration of their friendship or lack thereof. The episode also teams up Lashana and Duncan. These pair-ups are likely done by the writers because the characters paired up for the most part come from different teams and haven't interacted much until this episode. More so Duncan and Lashana and Jeff and Gwen, as Heather and Owen are pretty much more played for laughs. The first challenge in this triathlon is an eating challenge. Pretty simple, but the campers all find a way to bicker and have their issues.
This is like a dream I had once.
The donut copter dream?
You've had it too?
Owen and Heather obviously win. The episode then transitions to a canoe trip to Boney Island to return that tiki doll thing Beth stole like 13 episodes ago. Once they get to the island, they are also told that each team has to have a camper piggybacking the other.
Well, the guy's got his limits. Mine's about 300.
Wow. Those two are like milk and grape juice, eh?
The second challenge primarily puts Jeff and Gwen at the center, where after a short bit of hostility from Gwen, she kind of opens up about her insecurities regarding her rough exterior and social life, and she and Jeff actually seem to have a lot more in common than they think. It's one of the more emotionally potent moments of the show, and quite nice. Gwen and Jeff manage to return the tiki statue before anyone else.
So, an awesome day, huh? Moldy fruit fights, carnivorous beavers, but it's time for someone to win this thing. Point each for everyone but Lashana and Duncan, who could still pull a stopper. Today's final challenge.
Ah! Relax, it's just Eva. Ew, 2 Evas. That is upsetting.
The last challenge is pretty simple. The characters just have to make a totem pole of all the other campers who've been eliminated, in order from Ezekiel to Izzy. The challenge acts as an excuse to see the final 6 reflect on all the people who've been eliminated, and it makes for some both interesting and funny moments. A really satisfying scene for me. especially seeing Duncan and Lashana do so well and win the challenge after such a rough start. So that means the 3 teams tied and no one wins invincibility.
And you know who's going down now. Someone who, without any immunity from the vote, is guaranteed to be drugged. Jeff.
I kind of feel bad for repeating myself over and over regarding this, but yeah, I think one thing this season really did that other seasons did better was kind of planning out who voted for whom in each episode. In Total Drama World Tour especially, I think the writers eliminated campers with a bit more detail, thinking a bit more about why certain campers voted for certain campers. This season, it doesn't feel like they put too much thought into individual votes made by each camper and how that affects the elimination. So Jeff gets kicked off for being too nice. Sad. 5 campers left. Heather, Gwen, Duncan, Owen, and Lashana. A decent bunch, honestly. It takes a lot of strategy and dumb luck to go this far in the game, and the final 5 should be proud of their achievements. So why not let them get a little glimpse of home? At this point in the show's season, short clips of video messages would air between shows broadcasted showing the campers' parents or other loved ones saying hi. We see Owen's parents, and his mom looks suspiciously like Sadie. We see Lashana's friend who looks suspiciously like Courtney.
Yeah, they were probably recycling assets where they could for these shorts.
Each video message runs around 30 seconds, but in that time we learn a decent amount. We learn that Heather is likely a hoppa by seeing her parents.
Goddamn you half Japanese girls, do it to me every time.
We learn a bit more about Duncan's legal situation and his relationship with his father. We also get to see Owen's adorable parents and how nice they are to him.
You may forget to watch them because the only place I could find them were 10-year-old videos on YouTube. But if you're watching this series and get to this point, I definitely recommend spending a few minutes checking out how the Final Five's home situation is going.
It's been a long 7 weeks. So, we decided to give our weary finalists the day off to contemplate how far they've gotten and enjoy all the campgrounds have to offer. But what happens to the campers after they walk the dock of shame, board the boat of losers, and leave the camp?
Do they go to hell?
Episode 22 takes us to a completely different environment, a local 5-star summer resort in Muskoka, Ontario.
Nice.
After losing, eliminated campers spend the rest of the show hanging out here, with a pool, drinks, and other amenities.
Not a bad deal.
The episode for the first half highlights how certain campers have been since their elimination. Some are fine with their fates, others not so much. I really liked this episode as a kid, because when I was young, I only really got to see the second half of the season, so a lot of the characters I would see in the theme song were complete enigmas to me. But in this episode, I got to see a lot of the characters who got the early boot interact with each other, and that was a big deal for me. Along with that, it also gave a lot of characters who got eliminated early a bit more screen time. Noah especially is given a lot of time here to really make a good impression, often bantering with Katie, Sadie, and other characters. Unfortunately though, Justin still doesn't get a speaking role.
Yo, dog, check it out. Being famous has totally changed my life. I'm just kicking it, yo. Got me some fly bling, too. You like?
Most of the episode isn't really that important in a story sense. A lot of the scenes could really be put in any order. That's not a bad thing, by the way, just something kind of interesting. The closest thing in this episode that really resembles an arc for any character is Courtney's plot to get revenge on Harold.
This episode actually does start to lay the foundation for Courtney's legal battle with Total Drama involving her illegitimate elimination from the show, which actually becomes a major plot point in season 2.
A lot of the other ex-contestants push back against her for being bitter about losing, but I'm gonna have to side with her. She was eliminated illegitimately. There's video evidence. I don't blame her for being bitter.
Did I get anything out of this experience? No. It was completely and totally uneventful.
He kissed a guy.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Didn't.
Did
not.
I could break this tie? He totally did.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! I got a letter from my sister that said there's a picture of me in Star Stalker magazine!
Congratulations, you just peaked. It's all downhill from here, honey.
Maybe if I get an eating disorder or my boobs done, I'll get on the cover.
Wow.
So for this episode, the eliminated campers get the unique opportunity to vote off any Final Five member of their choosing. Whomever the most campers vote for gets kicked off the show.
Not good for Heather. She's got a lot of enemies.
I am gonna ask you one by one, who you would like to see join you here tonight at Play-A-Day Losers. Who would you like to vote for?
Oh, I miss Lashana the most. Oh, it would be so much fun to have her here. Definitely Lashana. Why are you voting her off? If you like Lashana, leave her in.
That's 3 votes, Lashana.
What? No!
Okay, on to the next voter. Lindsay.
Don't worry, I'm not gonna vote for Lashana.
Lindsay!
No, you can't vote for me. You have to vote for someone who's in the final 5, like Lashana. Okay, come on, guys. No one say Lashana!
That's 6 votes, Lashana.
Lashana.
And with that, we are down to 4.
Okay, so that was like the 3rd most unfair elimination in the show so far. But the scene in which Lashana gets eliminated is funny as fuck, so I'll let it slide.
So overall, I actually like this episode a ton. It's a nice change of pace, but it's also a nice moment of reflection as we move into the final few episodes of the show.
Episode 23 takes us back to the main island, on what seems to be quite a rainy day.
Listen up, campers. One of the most grueling challenges of any summer camp experience is the dreaded rain day, where all activities with even the remotest possibility of fun are canceled in favor of the craft tent.
Or you get cast away to a deserted island because it rains so much that your cabins literally floated away from their locations.
Ah! I'm all alone! Adrift at sea!
Dude, you're like 200 feet from land. Our campers are obviously stressed out over the confusion of being lost at a geographically inaccurate lake island in Bicker. Owen, being separated from the rest of the campers, develops a relationship with a coconut, obviously parodying Wilson from the movie Castaway. The campers consistently go back and forth between cooperation and working on their own, getting in fights with prehistoric creatures and stuff on the way before they're all reunited.
So, Chef, how do you think our campers are doing on their deserted island?
Anything could happen to them by now. Mauled by bears, fell off a cliff, starved to death.
Maybe I should go check the monitors and see what kind of footage we got.
Chris, man, you are one dedicated host. You're an inspiration.
Thanks, dude. It's what I do.
I will say though that this challenge, even with the dinosaurs and snakes and shit, is pretty low-key, and it gives the 4 campers space to interact, and they eventually talk about their deepest, darkest secrets to each other. It's kind of funny seeing the more grounded characters interact with Owen in a more real way than usually just making gross faces whenever he farts. After they hang out for a bit, like, the problems all just kind of solve themselves and they reunite with Chris and the crew. Oh, and no one gets voted out, unless you count the fucking coconut.
But why?
Get it together, dude. You're starting to creep me out.
Mr. Coconut!
In the next episode, Chris is off to host some awards show, so instead the person who does the recap is Chef Hatchet. He's in control this episode, and he's not going to let our final 4 off easy. After the title sequence, we are immediately thrown into the challenge. Heather, Gwen, Duncan, and Owen wake up in the middle of the woods with a very simple task. Find your way back to camp with the gear you have. Also, you and the other campers are being divided into teams by gender.
They left us in the woods, alone, again.
Yeah, we're not exactly exploring new territory. The teams quickly split up and look at their gear, but really they don't have anything of use. At least not without the gear the other team has. For example, one team gets a compass and the other team gets a map. It's a pretty simple challenge though, even when you don't factor in how tedious it is. It's like busy work with a substitute teacher. In fact, throughout the episode we cut away from the campers engaging in the challenge to Chef doing all sorts of stupid shit in camp, like teaching himself French. The episode actually makes a good move pairing up Heather and Gwen as a team. Seeing as these characters have been at each other's throats since the first episode, it's interesting seeing them try to get value out of working together.
We have to win this challenge. We can't afford to let the guys win invincibility. And who knows what kind of evil bonding they're up to right now.
Nice one.
So the campers start trying to sabotage each other, and of course that leads to some cute back and forth antics, like luring each other with food and stuff, which is funny. What's more funny is how Owen eats energy bars completely whole, wrapper and all in one bite, because the animators don't want to bother animating him unwrapping and eating it. The sequences are surprisingly cartoony and really different from a lot of the rest of the show. It's hard to explain. Pretty much, it's a set of alternating scenes where one team tricks the other and steals their shit, like the bug spray or the compass. Oh, by the way, the girls run into Sasquatch, or Wawanakwa, or whatever. It was brought up at the start of the episode that he was hanging around, the campers didn't believe it, but considering that he's been in like 3 episodes already, they probably should have. They get into all the wacky antics with the Yeti thing and eventually they lose him. The girls admit defeat and Duncan offers them the chance to set up camp and bunk with them, since the challenge is pretty much settled already.
Fucking idiot.
The girls steal all their stuff and run off the next morning, cementing their invincibility for this challenge. Poor Duncan. These hoes are indeed not loyal. Duncan walks the dock of shame after a frustrating loss.
So, looks like we made it to the final 3.
I've got to admit, I didn't think I'd make it this far.
So, it's Owen and 2 hot chicks. Yeah! Party!
So Duncan is out of the game and we are left with our final 3 campers. Queen Bee, Goth Girl, and Fat Kid. Not the most likely candidates for making it this far, but they do make good TV. At this point in the show, there is no more voting. The loser of the competition gets kicked off without the traditional ceremony.
Campers! Welcome to the semi-finals. Today, we reward our challengers with an all-you-can-eat pancake breakfast.
With a nice pancake breakfast and the satisfaction of knowing they have a good chance of winning $100,000, our campers are all pretty optimistic, more than usual for sure.
So I actually made it to the final 3. Just goes to show you how far a bad attitude can get you.
I wanted to believe it. I dreamt it could be true. And now the day is finally here. All you can eat pancakes, yes!
I'm actually gonna push back against Owen's enthusiasm about pancakes. From my experience, all you can eat pancakes are a trap. The amount of pancakes you can usually have is almost always inversely correlated with the quality of the pancakes, and these pancakes look fucking awful. Either way, pancakes may sometimes taste good, but I've never felt good about myself after eating a pancake. It's like a bite of self-pity. The syrup is sweet, but sticks to your face way too long, like all the regrets in your life.
I wanted to make a quick scene of me eating pancakes to go along with the characters and pretend that I'm actively on the show, but unfortunately I'm on a diet, and I can't eat stuff like pancakes for real. So here's a quick mock-up.
Yummy, yummy pancakes. I love eating pancakes. Yummy. I love pancakes. Pancakes are so yummy.
Pancakes, pancakes, pancakes!
If I win, I'm gonna buy Camp Wawanakwa so I can burn it down and turn it into a graveyard.
Pancakes, pancakes, pancakes!
I can't play the introduction to this episode in full, but it's actually funny as hell. The confessionals highlight the differing emotions our final 3 are heading forward with. Usually Gwen and Heather talking about serious shit while Owen sings about pancakes.
You ever notice how much a toilet seat looks like a pancake?
So our next challenge is a game where you have to spin a bottle that lands on a former contestant. Before the challenge, the crew asks the former contestants a bunch of sick dares to make the semi-finalists do, and the camper you land on picks the dare. You can either dare someone else to do it, or do it yourself and gain a freebie that protects you from having to do a certain dare. For example, if you're dared to eat your own shit, you can force someone else to do it, or do it yourself and get a freebie. If you're ever dared by someone else to do something, you can use the freebie to not have to do it. But if you are dared to do something and don't have a freebie to get out, you either have to do it or be instantly eliminated.
They provided us with the sickest, most twisted, and insane dares imaginable in TDI's version of Spin the Bottle!
What is this? Grade 5? Why don't we just do 7 minutes of heaven in a tacky basement closet?
No comment.
Gwen goes up first.
Okay, let's get this party started! Duncan's dare. Lick Owen's armpit.
I'd probably do that.
You can perform the dare yourself, or dare one of your competitors to do it. Either way, someone's licking some armpit in the next minute.
I triple dog dare Heather.
Oh, what the fuck? Did you have to put in flies? Why did there have to be flies? They even went far enough to draw Owen's armpit in detail, and if you think about it, That's pretty serious. Since this show was made in Flash, most of it is recyclable assets. They take making this episode as gross as possible really seriously.
You could imagine that you're licking an ice cream cone.
Please don't ruin ice cream for me.
Heather does the dare, and it's her turn to spin.
Ezekiel's dare is chew your own toenail slowly.
I do that, to be honest.
Heather dares Gwen to do it, and yeah, that's gonna be a pattern here. Gwen does it, and they really want you to enjoy the eating her own toenail ASMR. Owen's turn is up.
Beth, re-chewing a wad of Harold's gum.
I will take the dare.
Dude, it's chewed gum. Harold's chewed gum.
I know, but it must be pretty special if he's been saving it.
That's not how it works, Owen. That's not how it works.
Full body. A delicate fruity aroma with a hint of citrus. Robust yet balanced. Oh, summery. Oh, and a crunchy center.
Woohoo! I've seen this episode over a dozen times, and that still makes me gag to this day. Owen may be fat and slow and lazy, but it's not wise to underestimate fat and slow and lazy people when it comes to competitions to do gross shit.
Drop a tray of ice into your undies and let them melt.
Dude, I do that for fun. Gwen's getting all the easy dares.
Gwen takes the dare, and her willingness to put ice cubes up her own vagina gives her a freebie. Now, Heather is behind the other two.
My turn. And I'm taking the dare. I don't care what it is.
Tyler, huh? Now what kind of sick shit would Tyler want the semifinalists to do?
Okay, what the fuck? Owen is up next and he gets Izzy's dare.
Give a purple nurple to a sleeping bear.
I wouldn't do that.
Oh, hey there, Mr. Bear. I'm just gonna give you a little pinch and be right on the...
Have I mentioned that I love the animals in this show and their expressions? Because I really do. Gwen's up next.
Lick Owen's toe jam.
Jesus. Gwen tries to make Heather do it, but Heather uses up her freebie.
Drink powdered fruit punch from the communal toilet.
I might do that in a clean toilet, but not the ratchet shit water at Camp Wawanakwa.
Quite the predicament, Gwen. Do you use the freebie? Or do I save it for an even sicker dare down the road?
Gwen ends up taking the dare, like a fucking champ. Or a sick fucking weirdo willing to humiliate themselves on television for the chance of winning money. It's not like I can judge, though.
No way! That's so gross! Oh!
Cody. It's gonna be Cody. Hell yeah!
Eat dog food.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, baby! Man, sorry, guys. I keep getting all the good ones.
Owen eats the dog food and has the reaction you'd predict.
Meaty tasting.
So from this point on, we kind of go into a montage of the campers doing all sorts of weird shit as dares, some a lot worse than others. We fast forward to a point where Owen has 20 freebies, and the girls pretty much none.
If you help me take down Heather, I'll share my winnings with you.
Gwen literally convinces Owen to give her half of his freebies, and Chris allows it. So with both Gwen and Owen being basically immune to dares, they all just watch Heather be humiliated and treated like shit for a while. It's a satisfying few minutes, especially because of all the nasty shit she's done throughout the season, but it all climaxes with one certain dare.
Finally, I catch a break. There is no way Lindsay could think of anything bad.
Ooh, you're not gonna like this one. Have your head shaved by Shep.
Lindsay rules!
What's it going to be, Heather? Are you going to do the dare? Or the walk of shame?
Wow, Chef really fucked her shit up.
Wow, well that was an unfortunate accident. Looks like Heather's out.
What are you talking about? He shaved my head!
True, but you didn't actually accept the dare. If you had, you'd still be bald, but at least you'd be in the game.
That was harsh. Tough break.
Heather starts screaming, and we get to see how cursed Chris and Chef look from a top-down 45-degree angle. That's some Phineas front view shit. Heather gets eliminated, and, well, the other two make it to the finals.
So, before we get into the finale, I just want to talk about how great this episode was in general. I was kind of letting a lot of it speak for itself, but this episode is just such a fantastic conclusion for Heather's arc as the antagonist.
The final scene is fantastic, and I think it's the perfect punishment for a character like this. Something embarrassing and humiliating, but also within reason. One thing the later seasons did was put the antagonist characters through extreme torture for their crimes of being mean on TV, and I always thought that was stupid as hell. No one deserves to be completely submerged in active lava, or mauled to the point of needing to be put in one of those sketchy beeping robot things for being an antagonist on a reality show. Heather having to lick an armpit and have her head shaved is so much more satisfying to me because it feels a lot more like justice. She was mean and manipulative, and because of that she loses her hair, and everyone thinks she's a joke. She's a laughingstock who's lost the most important thing to her, her image, and that's much more meaningful from a storytelling perspective than falling in a fucking volcano. That's a problem with the later seasons in general. They take everything to the extreme and the show is so much less subtle in its writing because of that. Heather losing her hair was a fitting conclusion for her, but she's not the only character throughout the entire show that goes bald at some point. In fact, it happens several times, and every time they do it again, it gets more and more pointless, and it devalues the potency Heather's scene had. Revenge of the Island was the worst at this, but other seasons did this too. Just in general, the later seasons made everything too extreme and hyperbolic. Another good example is the elimination exits and how they got more and more stupid over time. We went from walking down a dock to ride a boat away, to riding a shitty limousine, to jumping out a fucking plane, to being hurled out of a fucking catapult, to being flushed down a giant toilet, to being shot out of a fucking cannon. I just have a really hard time imagining elimination scenes as potent as Courtney's or Katie's, when it ends off with a character being flushed down a fucking toilet, and that is reflective of how the show changed over time in general.
But let's get into the final episode. This video is already really long.
Morning in Muskoka. The birds chirping, the loon calling.
On days like this, kids like you should be burning in hell.
Welcome to the most dramatic, thrilling episode yet!
25 episodes, 20 booted campers, and we're finally here. It's been a long-ass video, but we're in the endgame now.
One of the final campers today is about to make a fat $100,000 check. Either Gwen or Owen will have overcome shark-infested lakes, haunted islands, and Heather, and that's impressive.
I had a wicked time! It was awesome! Yeah, who's the man?
What was it like being here for 8 weeks? It stank, that's what.
Owen and Gwen have very differing opinions on their time here for sure. So, we're thrown into the final challenge pretty quickly, and all the former contestants come back to the island to help their camper of choice. And at first, there's more or less a 50-50 consensus on the preferred victor. We also see Heather, with a wig to hide her shaved head. So although Heather is still not in the challenge, it is revealed that she is making an effort to sabotage Gwen's chances at winning, and we get a flashback to her leaving a cupcake full of laxatives outside Gwen's door.
Really, Heather? Of all the ways to sabotage, laxatives?
Gwen, Owen, this is your chance to tell the peanut gallery of failure what you would do with the money if you won, and why you deserve it.
Well, I guess I'm pretty proud of getting this far. I mean, maybe if I can survive here, the rest of high school won't be so bad.
Oh, sorry.
I guess I go traveling and then to university to study art history.
Woo! Yeah, that's it. Girlfriend's got some goals.
Very cool. Wow, that's really sweet. Boring, but sweet. Owen?
I'd throw the biggest, hugest, sickest party ever and invite everyone here. Booyah!
Are these promises legally binding? So the challenge is basically a race with a few tasks in between, like climbing up a pole or walking on a balance beam over shark-infested water.
Not the hardest thing they've ever done, really.
They also have to wear a cow and chicken hat. So the race begins and the finalists run toward the flagpoles. Now you might think that Gwen would have the advantage here because she is not morbidly fucking obese and can probably see her toes, but Heather used butter to make her pole all slippery.
So you may recall a few episodes back Heather's attempt to ruin Gwen and Trent's relationship by kissing Trent. Well, although things seem to be resolved then, it does seem like Gwen still isn't actually over it.
Trent throughout this episode makes efforts to make amends with her, because he still likes her, and although she doesn't want to admit it, she still likes him.
Well, if you're gonna stand there annoying me, make yourself useful.
Good move, Trent. Gwen and Owen successfully complete the first part of the challenge.
Okay, new intern. I know it's weird that you're starting on our last show, but all of the other interns died already. All you have to do is test out this final challenge and make sure it's moderately safe. Don't look down, dude! Well, that looks safe enough.
Damn.
I'm going to die now. I'm gonna frickin' die.
Fun fact, that line seems to be a callback to the second episode of the show, when Owen jumps off the big cliff. I'm not sure why, but it's worth noting.
I'm going to die now. I'm going to frickin' die now.
Owen and Gwen both begin their attempt to cross the gorge, and it is predictably stressful for them both. Oh, also, the finalists have to carry across eagle eggs. I didn't mention that. So not only are they at the risk of being eaten alive by sharks, but they are also at risk of being clawed off the beams by angry eagles and then being eaten alive by sharks.
Angry eagle parents? Oh snap, that is messed up.
What, you mean you like watching this? They could die.
Oh, mellow your yellow, babe. This is awesome TV.
Duncan is so immature. What is it about almost dying and bodily functions that guys love? Then again, danger is kinda hot. You're still not my type.
You make me sick.
I've missed these two. I really miss them.
So Gwen and Owen both manage to survive and begin the last leg of the race.
I almost forgot. Thanks for the cupcake.
What cupcake?
The one you left for me.
I didn't leave you a cupcake. Was it good?
I don't know. I didn't eat it.
Oh no.
So it's revealed that the cupcake Heather left for Gwen was given to Owen. And you guys know what that means.
Oh no! Quick! Where's the bathroom out here?
Owen! No! Not in the confession can!
Owen's insane diarrhea gives Gwen a huge advantage, along with his extra 200 pounds in body weight. It's really seeming like Gwen is going to take the victory.
Oh no! Gwen is winning! Our yacht party is in jeopardy!
Dudes, we have to do something!
Wait, I have a plan! Has anyone seen a really big electric fan here?
Sure, got one in my trailer.
You do?
Do you think I get this windblown look naturally?
So Izzy, in an indiscriminate amount of time, makes a bunch of freshly baked brownies and hooks it up with Chris's giant electric fan and points it at Owen.
I think it's over for me, dude.
That's too bad, bro. I would have liked going to that party.
Wait, is that brownies?
Izzy successfully activates Owen's critical fat person ability, which gives him a 200% boost in speed whenever his health is below 20% and he is within food type items. And suddenly, he sprints toward the finish line and wins the final challenge.
I won! I won!
You okay?
Yeah, just remind me never to get between Owen and a brownie again.
Gwen takes the defeat well, and she and Trent finally make up and decide to become a couple and go to Owen's super cool party together.
You really stink.
Here we are, at the last bonfire ever. After 8 brutal weeks, it is my pleasure to announce the winner of Total Drama Island, Owen!
Ocean man, take me by the hand, lead me to the land that you understand.
Well, actually, not really. See, the thing is, Total Drama, as a series, doesn't actually have canonical season winners.
Based on the part of the world where the show aired, the final episode was aired with one of two endings. One ending is where Owen wins, and the other ending is where Gwen wins. So based on where you watch the show, the character who wins varies. If you live in Canada, America, Australia, Brazil, the UK, and most other countries where the show aired, Owen was the winner. But if you live in Finland, Norway, Poland, Romania, or Sweden, so like if you're 1% of the people watching this, Gwen probably won for you.
The reason they aired alternate endings is because they would run online polls in certain areas for people to vote for whom they would like to win. I recall being in like 2nd grade and having some kids in my class telling me to vote for Owen on the show's website.
One thing that's easy to notice in following seasons is that with the exception of the Total Drama Island special, in the first couple episodes of Total Drama Action, there is absolutely no mention of the winners of previous seasons. For example, the winner of Total Drama Action is never brought up in Total Drama World Tour. This is because having to air so many different versions of so many different episodes would be bonkers. I think they did try and remain consistent for the first bit of Total Drama Action, but after that they decided to never mention the final episode of a season and its results in later episodes. Having to make a version of an episode where Gwen makes an offhand comment about making 2nd place, and also one where she mentions making 1st place, is just too difficult and a waste of time and money.
This is more speculative, but I personally believe this is why the show so often has the money destroyed or lost at the end of a season.
Because becoming a millionaire is a big change in someone's life, it doesn't make a lot of sense for certain characters to come back to the show having previously won $1 million without any significant change in their personality or dialogue. So burning the money in a case and leaving the finalists penniless makes the show a lot more coherent, if not a bit frustrating at times. It's an interesting way of doing things, and I always found myself fascinated by that as a kid. Most Total Drama nerds don't talk about characters in terms of who wins the season, they usually talk in terms of finalists. Gwen and Owen are the 2 finalists in Total Drama Island, for example. For all intents and purposes, there is no runner-up and winner. So, yeah, that was Total Drama Island.
So, I was originally going to call this show a guilty pleasure, but I really don't think that term works, because, dare I say, this show is unironically really good.
Because yes, the animation is cheap, there are plot holes and goofs a lot of the time, and potty jokes aren't for everyone, but that doesn't take away the charm of the show in general for me. It's a really funny show. The characters are really likable, it is surprisingly emotionally potent, and it also has that charm where it's easy to visualize yourself as a participant. It also appeals to that data statistic obsessed autism a lot of people have. You can find discussions among fans about who they believe voted for whom, or what kind of characters have the best challenge winning chances in statistics, in the same way people talk about professional sports players. It's a culture I followed a lot as a kid, and still find interesting to this day. Every now and then I find a fellow weirdo on the internet who has a strange obsession with this show, and we chat about things we find interesting, like how shitty of a character Trent became in early Total Drama Action, and how that ruins the dynamics built between him and Gwen during Island, and stuff like that.
But would I recommend it to anyone? I'm not so sure.
If you're one of those people who really likes animation and cartoons and stuff, I would definitely recommend you give this show a chance, but it's definitely not for everyone.
If you're in my generation though, and recall watching this as a kid but don't remember the details, then I 100% recommend watching the first season at least. You'll unlock a whole bunch of old memories, and that's fun on its own. Maybe get some friends too. One of my favorite things to do as a teenager was get a bunch of friends together and just binge the show with them.
So to wrap it all up, Total Drama Island is super special to me. It's probably one of my all-time favorite cartoons to watch, even if it's more like eating a fucking McDonald's Big Mac than eating a gourmet 9-course meal or something. Thanks for watching this far. This was clearly a long video for you to watch and an even longer video for me to write, record, film, and edit. I was originally going to include a segment where I make a tier list of the characters in the show, but I've decided to make that a separate video that I put on my second channel. If you want me to talk about the characters themselves, then I would definitely recommend you check it out. I'll see you guys around.